Hey, before we get started, I wanted to ask you to subscribe to the Keeping the Lights On newsletter. I want to share insight into the podcast, give you a peek into new episodes, get feedback from you on show topics and guests, and of course, share with you some cool restaurants selected by our guests. Click on the subscribe link in the show notes or on thegraybar.com/podcast page. Thank you. We've heard it all before. Skilled labor shortages in the construction market, a proliferation of new tech in construction, and the struggle for adoption of that tech. In addition, I'm talking a bit more about company culture and its importance in creating an engaged and thriving workforce and company. So tying all three of these topics together is why I'm excited to have Kassy Slaughter on the podcast. When I spoke with her, she was the Senior Manager of Industry Transformation at Procore and presented on this topic at the 2025 NECA convention. Since we've talked, she's moved on from Procore go into real estate and community development with her husband and others. So let me step aside and let Kassy answer the question, who is Kassy Slaughter?
I am a learner, a friend, an adventurer, and then a construction educator, fanatic, and advocate.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it there.
Okay, that's perfect. Now, the adventurer here, because you did send me a photo, part of that adventuring is?
Kayaking.
Yes, I love it. So here she is. Insert
Yep.
picture here.
Yeah.
Kayaking. That's awesome. And where do you do that primarily?
Well, my husband and I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so we do find ourselves kayaking around in the lakes and rivers there, but our heart is really in the whitewater in California. So we spend time each summer out on the Tuolumne and the American. We've also done Desolation Canyon out in Utah, and we love a river adventure, especially a multi-day river adventure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to Keeping the Lights On. I'm your host, Todd Reed, and on this podcast, I connect with the owners and pros who design, build, and maintain our electrical, communications, and industrial world to explore the best ways forward. Let's get into the show.
We start out each episode with the meals that bring us together.
Yes.
So, Kassy, if I or one of the viewers were to visit you, where might you take us and why would you choose this?
Okay, well, I'm going to give you two choices, Todd.
Okay.
So the first choice is the Iron Bay Restaurant in Marquette, Michigan.
Okay.
And I choose it because there's a great patio outside where you can look at the 85-foot tall ore dock, the iron ore dock, because we're like a huge exporter of iron ore up there. And it's quite a marvel to see. So great conversation piece for lunch. But I think the lunch option you personally might be more interested is heading down to Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, which is essentially a national park, jumping in some kayaks and eating a sack lunch
in the kayak in the water?
In the beautiful, beautiful clear waters of the lake and peering up at all of these magical lands.
Yeah.
So
yes, I will choose that one.
Okay, I figured you would.
Although that iron ore thing, is that still in operation, the iron ore dock?
The one that you can see from that restaurant is not.
Okay.
But there is one further along the lakeshore that is still in operation because we still have a very active mine up there.
Okay.
But they left that 85-foot tall one because it's just such a marvel and it's kind of just so much of the culture and the industry up there.
But as we're discussing this in late 2025, what is the current state of the construction labor market today?
Well, I've got a couple different numbers here that I like to pick on, and one is the current number of job openings in construction as a whole.
Okay.
So as of the July BLS numbers, we're looking at 306,000 openings. So that is a lot of vacancy in our industry. And just about everybody I talk to is hiring or trying to hire or having trouble hiring. Now, another number that I've got for you is 1 to 5. And that 1 to 5 ratio represents the number of workers that are 55 years or older in our industry. So you can read that as they're headed to retirement very soon.
Yeah.
And well-earned retirements, as they should. And that number also represents one entrant into our industry for every 5 leaving.
Oh.
So those are some pretty stark numbers. And I don't mean to share that to scare anybody. Again, I'm sure your listeners are aware of this, but maybe this framing is a little bit different. And I think that we've all heard different statistics that indicate that about half of our workforce is going to retire over the next 10 years or so.
Yeah. So let me make sure I understood that number. So are 1 in 5 55 and older?
Yes.
But then also
For every one that
one entering,
joins,
5
5
are
are
leaving.
leaving.
Okay, interesting. I always like to be a unique person, and 1 to 5, I mean, it's still 20%. Unfortunately, I'm now in that category of 55. I'm like, oh my god!
But also good for you. It means retirement's coming.
Yeah, okay. All right, so thank you for those numbers. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. Oh, I am curious on the 306, and I don't know if you have this kind of breakdown. Are those strictly electricians, or are those?
That is the industry as a whole. But when
Okay.
we look ahead just a little bit into what we're going to need annually, for the industry, it's over 500,000 that we need every year. But when we drill into electrical, there's some debate somewhere between 70 and 100,000 electricians
Okay, yeah.
every single year. Electrical represents like the biggest lion's share and is actually kind of set to be the fastest growing like employment sector within construction.
Okay.
And I mean that's no surprise really, just the size of the industry is naturally growing.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, Todd, but I can't get out of a conversation without talking about data and AI, data centers.
Yeah. I mean, here at the NICA show, how many of these signs and posters of these hundreds of booths have AI somewhere mentioned in them?
I'm sure all of them do,
Yeah, right.
or they should,
Yeah.
because you can't escape a conversation. But all of that needs exorbitant power, which is really great news for the electrical trade.
Yep,
But
yep.
also presents a huge challenge in terms of growing that labor pool.
Yeah, another conversation I've had a lot of is around AI, but more the data center side and
Yep.
the construction of them. And I was just talking to someone talking about foreman training and how they're losing people to data centers and other outside opportunities, which, sometimes have a little extra money to use to pay employees more than maybe construction
Yeah.
can pay right now.
Yeah.
So, so they're losing people for that reason too. So construction tech or contact. So again, here at the NICA show, construction technology is we got products and construction tech are probably two of the biggest things. So it's widely discussed. There's discussions here about it. So what is the challenge we're seeing in this area of contact and the employee?
Yeah, well, I think it's this double-edged sword because as you can see on the NICA floor right now, there's been tremendous investment in AEC or construction technology over the last few years, and that's to the tune of $11.5 billion has been infused.
Yeah.
But the challenge with that is that our workforce is struggling with digital literacy.
Okay.
And, think about it. A year ago, well, let me ask you this, Todd. How often have you used AI? Are you using it on a weekly basis?
I use it to help me generate the scripts for my show
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
whatever basis. But
Yeah.
and then the times I don't know I'm using it.
Yeah. So you use AI pretty frequently,
Yep.
say weekly. Now, a year ago, were you?
Nope.
You weren't, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
that's a big
Yeah.
change.
That's a good point.
A big change in how we're operating. But half of our workforce, according to the National Skills Coalition, and this is construction and transportation, are writing at about 50% digital literacy for the tools that they had. But the kicker is that this report that I'm citing is from 2020.
Yeah.
And think about everything that's happened since 2020.
No, that's crazy.
That gap, and I mean, that's my conjecture, but that gap, I'm
No.
sure, is much wider now.
It's got to be wider. Yeah.
So we can't keep up with all of this technology. But the technology is also getting so good that if we, if we intentionally harness that energy and also use this in conjunction with the workforce, and I know we'll talk about it in a bit, I think that there's a symbiotic relationship that can open up there between all of this technology and that workforce gap that we're seeing.
Yeah.
So
Great. So I love the topic of company culture, and I brought on more guests recently where we talk and focus on that. So what cultural challenges impact construction broadly,
yeah.
and what challenges are impacting contractors specifically?
Oh, those are big questions. You might have to keep me on track here.
Okay.
So the things that come to mind for me, and not all of them are directly cultural, but it's this cultural perception that people have. It doesn't necessarily accurately reflect the culture of construction, but outsiders think this is what it is.
Okay.
They think that it's dull, dirty, and dangerous.
Yep. Okay.
They think it's analog.
Okay.
They think that it's not for me. As a woman or marginalized communities, they may see the demographics on a site and think I'm I shouldn't be there, or
Right.
I'm not welcome there. I came from a construction family.
Mm.
Nobody ever told me about construction. I got there by accident.
Oh.
And then I was upset. I was like, you guys, you didn't tell me that I could do this and that I'd be good at it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And so I think that there's some misconceptions around what construction is and isn't from a cultural perspective.
Okay.
But I think the other big factor here is the generational challenges.
Okay.
We have 4 or 5 generations in the workplace right now. And that's 4 different sets of culture.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's 4 different sets of expectations, communication styles, work styles, the way we get work done, the way that we balance our work and our life, and the way we expect others to. I mean, it's kind of like Thanksgiving dinner every single day on a job site.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great point. Yeah.
And there's a lot of culture that happens at Thanksgiving dinner when you get, your family together.
I mean, ours are always good, so I don't know what Thanksgiving you're going to.
Well, and it can be it can be good and it can be conflict free and all of that, but there is still like big differences, right? And,
Oh, yeah.
Grandpa's like, get over here and show me how to use the remote, and they're like, get off your phone, you're spending too much time on social media.
Yeah.
And, gosh, mom, get with the program.
Yeah.
And that's happening in the workplace every day.
That's true.
In these really high stakes projects and these high pressure environments.
So it sounds like contractors, construction, let's just bring it more broad to construction, maybe needs a little bit of a PR boost of some kind.
That is probably like the drum that I beat the most.
Okay.
I think that there is so much in our control to shift this narrative.
Okay.
To shift the narrative around all of those misconceptions that we just outlined, and also just to like do some work around helping people work across generations, for instance, or helping teach people what culture is. Because it is still a fairly new concept in the workplace for the construction industry.
Yeah, I've been told by people like the culture is what the culture is. I mean, I'm like, well, you can put a little bit of work into it and make it intentional, and that was something you can do for sure. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so as you're thinking about these issues of the employee counts and the struggle with that and construction technology and integrating all that culture, PR, so. I think it can cause a little bit of a paralysis, right? The old paralysis by analysis, which I think stops people like, all right, forget it. I just got to go to this job and get the stuff in the wall to get it done. But this is a group of doers, right? Construction, I mean, all the people here, you can tell they can make stuff. They build stuff with their hands and their minds all the time.
Yep.
So what is it that you're proposing as a way to begin moving us through these challenges in a thoughtful, holistic manner?
Yeah, and I think that we'll get into like some of like the nitty gritty details, like real specific things people can go do. But I think the first thing is a big mindset shift.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do the thing now that we've started talking about rivers. Now I'm gonna bring up rivers again.
All right.
But Todd, what's it called when 2 rivers come together?
Confluence, right?
Yes.
Confluence.
It's a confluence. And when 2 rivers come together, it's very turbulent, like can be very scary.
Yep.
You don't want to fall out of the boat. You might get sucked under for a while and spat out on the other side of the river. But after all those mixing waters sort of calm down and those 2 rivers have come together, the water is more stable. It's often a more powerful flow. And so what I think is that the industry needs to realize that we're at the confluence of a few things here. We're at the confluence of this labor shortage. We're at the confluence of this, arguably another industrial revolution with all the technology transformation we're seeing. And I think that we're in the mixing waters of that. And instead of thinking of these 2 things as 2 separate problems, looking for ways that we can bring this together into a singular, more powerful river that's going to like help get us downstream to something really awesome for the industry.
Yeah, I like that illustration a lot, the rivers, especially being in St. Louis where I live. You got the Missouri and Mississippi coming together, and it's...
And that is the exact river that I use in examples when I give presentations, because I always say we're in the big muddy, y'all, because that confluence is so clear. Like you see the blue water coming together with literally this muddy sediment filled river. But that is kind of what it feels like some days in construction, right? Like you're in the big muddy, you're trying to balance like the cultural side of things, but you have more urgent matters with the projects you're managing today, and you're managing your current workforce. You can't even think about who the next workforce is because you're getting the dang job done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said about the difficulties of that, but I think we can reframe it as a great opportunity and sort of a symbiotic relationship there.
Okay.
And the other thing is starting to look at those intergenerational challenges
Okay.
as another opportunity for a symbiotic relationship between that veteran generation and our incoming generation.
And what role is data playing into this as well?
Oh, data is huge. I mean, really, when we start talking about like AI, for instance, and how AI is going to help us in these moments, all of that's predicated on good, clean data.
Yeah.
And even when we're talking about like knowledge transfer between generations, like we need to be getting like data out of the exiting generation's head and into the incoming generation's head.
Yeah.
And technology can help with that. Storytelling can help with that.
Okay.
And so being intentional about that is really important. But I think there are like some barriers to overcome in terms of people's attitudes across generations with working with each other. Because again, it's like 4 different sets of preferences, communication styles, and my way or the highway, like on all sides. And so how can we start to talk about that in an open way and like give people the tools to work cross-generationally and to show, hey, like, veteran foreman that's master electrician, like you are going to mentor this newcomer, but guess what? That newcomer is going to mentor you and show you how to use all this newfangled gadgetry that suddenly is in our pockets and show you how to leverage AI to make your day better and show you how to capture your legacy with these tech tools so that your legacy like lives on in even more hearts and minds.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sort of like business priorities around this, but there's also a lot of human priorities and like human good that can come from leveraging technology in this moment.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So as we begin to move towards that vision
Yes.
in the Confluence, so we talk about some misconceptions, the PR struggles. What are some ways that construction can begin to improve the view of construction, what it means to make a career here?
Yes. Well, I think overcoming like that analog or the dull, dirty, and dangerous.
Okay.
Like showcasing everything. Where are contractors right now recruiting? Where are they meeting their prospective employees? If it's out at job and career fairs, that's awesome. But how are you showing like what you do out on site? How are you showing like the communities that you're building? Because we do know that Gen Z really wants to do like some community good or like societal good in their work. Like,
Okay.
who does it better than construction?
Yeah, for
Like-
sure. Yeah. And you can point to
Yeah, you can point to it. And even if you're not out there like using a robot out on your sites, like if that's not the sexy technology you have, fine. Like show off that you're using iPads. Show off like, your safety program. Show off your your toolbox talks in the morning. Like make people understand that it is a safe industry. It's come a long way. There is a ton of technology and innovation. Like every contractor that's here should be showing off all of the exciting things on the floor, like on their social media, because that's where a lot of this next generation is.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't even have to be next generation. It could be millennials. It can be, Gen X. It could be baby boomers that are also on social media today. We all are.
Right.
So I think showcasing that and yeah, I think just highlighting that mission and vision and being very clear about that, because that's going to attract the type of people that are engaged with your kind of mission and vision, your values, your culture. So showing that off, relatable examples from your site, from your office, from your meetings, from going to events like this, I think all of that matters in building your employer brand.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the technology here, I mean, there's some really cool things happening here. I like that highlighting what you're doing. I think another thing I think of when you were talking was a couple of things, but one of them is getting paid while you're training. For the most part is true. I mean, that's a big thing because everyone's talking about the cost of college and the cost of schooling. So
Absolutely. I mean, the way that I start to break it down is that you can either pay to learn and earn later, maybe, or you can get paid to learn and earn now.
Yeah.
And I think about my nephew who chose not to go to college, but he went to lineman school, and now he's making great earnings. He's paying into his retirement. He's making his truck payment, and he's living a great life. And his peers are coming out of college saddled with debt and things like that. So I'm not saying that it's an either or. I think that people need to know that there are both choices available to them, and we need to continue to champion for that, those of us that are in the industry.
Well, and okay, so you bring up another point is, maybe your nephew is doing that now, but a lot of people here start IBEW, get their trade, they become a journeyman,
Yep.
Electrician, but then they go to college while they're now,
Yeah.
they get an engineering degree or who knows,
Absolutely.
insert degree here.
Yeah.
You just meet a lot of people like that because being an electrician, there's a lot of it's not necessarily an easy trade because there's a lot of math and electronic
Absolutely.
science stuff. So
Yep.
anyway, there's future possibilities, and all the companies here would love to hire some electricians that maybe end up like I don't want to be on the job site, but I can help the industry this
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. I think that that's the path that you can take many paths. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be this overly prescribed like from here to there. You can wander a more circuitous path. Not to be punny about electrical, but I think it's a really interesting opportunity to get real world experience, get really clear on what interests you, and then go invest in college.
Yeah.
And again, I went to college,
Yeah,
so I'm
so did I.
not knocking it at all.
Yeah.
And it was great for me, and I wouldn't change it. But I think we just need to elevate it as a career of choice, like right out of high school, where kids are interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, so I graduated a few years before you in '88, and even then it was college,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like it might have been a little bit like, oh, they're going to go to a trade school, kind of like, it's
Yeah.
because they can't make it. And I'm like, you look back now, like, boy, that is just not fair at all to that. I mean, that's a very bad. That's a rough perspective. So.
We really kind of shot ourselves in the foot with that whole thing because guess where colleges come from? Guess where those buildings and classrooms come from?
Yeah.
Guess who turns the lights on?
Yeah.
And
It's awesome.
We've kind of missed the mark on realizing that there's that construction is very much part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like air, food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, electricity.
yeah, it's all part of that. So it's unfortunate that it's been overlooked, but I do think that the tides are starting to turn. I don't have the exact citation here, but I did see some headlines that trade school enrollments are up, maybe university enrollments are down. And again, I'm not knocking university, but maybe
Sure.
people are becoming more aware of the choice that lies
Yeah.
there. And to go explore a really great career in construction. Maybe they heard a story from somebody in their lives or on the street about how rewarding it is to work in construction.
Yeah.
How meaningful it is, how exciting it is that you work outside a lot of the time, that every project's different, that every team's a little bit different, and that you get to drive by these buildings and be like, I helped build that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's come up a couple times in interviews. People like, I can say I built that to
I
my
built
family.
that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right, so for a lot of this stuff to happen, you have to have a really good company culture. So
Yes.
let's get a little context. How would you define culture in a company?
Well, I think for me, it's a few different prongs. It's a shared language.
Okay.
It's kind of like the overarching bucket there, and that consists of your mission and vision, which is that thing that inspires all of us to get up in the morning and to kind of struggle together, right?
Yep.
And then the second thing are shared values and behaviors.
Okay.
And that really tells us how we're going to work together to get to that mission and vision, right?
Yep.
And it gives us both expectations for behavior and the way that we show up, and also permission for some of the ways that we behave and show up.
Okay.
And I think the other part that gets overlooked a little bit more now, especially in a post-pandemic era, for some reason, it is like the work environment and the work experience. Like, what's it like to be in the space where you work?
Okay, yeah.
And so those are kind of my three prongs. But again, I think it all comes down to like this shared like common language that's like been federated by the company. Like, you've defined what that is, and like what it is for Graybar would be different than what it is for Procore than for NICA or Contract or ABC.
Yeah.
And so I think defining your unique culture in that way is super important.
Okay.
And if I had to say that over again, I would probably say it more simply and use Gallup's definition, which is how we do things around here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And-
Straightforward.
yeah.
So, what to you are foundations of a strong culture?
Yeah, I mean, again, this comes down to common language for me, and I feel almost a bit like an imposter up here talking about this because this are things that I've learned, in my 9.5 years at Procore. I came from the traditional industry.
Okay.
I came into Procore, and they started talking about all this culture stuff, and I kind of like rolled my eyes. I was like,
Okay.
I just came off a job site. Like, I'm still covered in blue tape from the punch list I was doing. Like, what's this culture stuff? And then as I started learning and hearing like this mission and vision, and then seeing people show up in that way and seeing people take ownership and be optimistic and be open, which are our values, I realized that common language is really important. So I think to any company out there who doesn't have a federated mission and vision and a set of values, go do that and go co-create that with the people that you have.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't just be like, Todd or Kassy in a room, like writing down what we think and then telling people. Like, go co-create that with your team.
Yeah, it actually, if you're doing it kind of post-fact, which a lot of companies would, it actually will be a better one than maybe if you did it when you started.
Yeah, because you can kind of examine, like, well, gosh, what's really been working for us? And then, like, what are some things, like, we wish we weren't doing?
Yeah.
And how do we, like, make sure that we are understanding also what our culture is not in those moments?
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that's a really big first step. And it can't just be, again, it can't just be like, here's a mission and vision, and that's it. Like, there needs to be some campaign and some repeating of this message over and over and over again. And every new hire should get it.
Yeah.
And so, the kind of the bullets that I had for you around this is, obviously culture starts at the top. So modeling it. But then almost just as importantly, anybody new that's coming into your business, when you hire and you onboard them, yes, of course, do all the new hire paperwork, give them a set of plans, pat them on the head, send them out to the site.
Yeah.
But also talk to them about your culture, because it's going to set the tone from day one.
Yeah.
Incentivizing and investing in employees' growth. My other favorite right now is listening and acting.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is actually doing employee voice or employee engagement surveys. And, use AI to write the survey for you, and then use like a free survey creator to do it. Or go talk to one of the wonderful vendors that are out here that focus on like, engagement, check-ins, incentivization, and recognition. There are vendors out there that can do it for you if you don't have the time.
Right.
Or, again, throw it in a free Survey Monkey and send it out to people and say, like, what's going right? What's not?
Yep.
How's your manager? Do you have the things that you need to do your job correctly? How likely are you to be here working for us in 2 years? Like, get some data so that you as a leadership team can make some adjustments to the course of the ship. And then recognition. So as we think about this next generation coming in, Gen Z, they're digital natives, right? And some of the younger millennials are too. So they grew up online, on social media all the time, constantly getting feedback.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that they might want continuous feedback on how they're doing in their careers, or to be get the attaboy or the pat on the back when they've done something
up,
right.
The smiley face, whatever.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything grand. I don't think you have to throw, barbecues on your site, or, like hand out physical awards, but just sending out an email to a whole team and being like, man, Todd really went the extra mile on the site the other day. And that was really remarkable. And it's a great example of how we lived our value of ownership, or we lived our value of teamwork.
Yeah, I mean, this is okay. You got me thinking now. First of all, that survey answer, you could just do the whole show on that. And I feel like everyone who's watching and listening, you got your money's worth with that survey answer, because that was a really good, a lot of good questions to ask in that survey. But you got me thinking about that feedback loop that younger generations are used to. I mean, I like it too, and you probably do too. When you post something, going, hey, nice picture. But wow, how could you incorporate that as a company? Like, a lot of companies have internal intranet sites, right, where you're sharing whatever data that no one else can see. Gosh, can you make that as a more social thing? So, where I can freely post something, maybe put some guidelines, make it work stuff or not. I don't know. You can do family stuff too, but where you're like, hey, I just did this on this job, and then get that just feedback from peers and stuff. That's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly that, and I think that there's, just even internally with a team, like maybe every, Monday when you're doing like your safety talk or whatever it is, you call out somebody that took a safe action the previous week, or you call out somebody that lived a value, and you're doing that and like creating this like fabric of a really healthy team culture too.
Yeah.
That's so much of it. It's like the company culture, and then you have like your team culture and your project culture, right?
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, we on the team I'm a part of at Gray Bar, we have a thing where we kind of do I can't remember the name. We call it brag tag or kudos or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know,
totally.
hey, anybody have anybody help them today or this week, past
Yeah.
week? And I was, oh, Kassy helped me do this project, which I think is a kind of a cool way of doing it, because if you ask like, Kassy, share something you did this week that you're really proud of. It's like, some people like, it depends
Yeah,
on if they're,
yeah,
some people might be like, oh yeah, I did this thing. But a lot of people are going like, you know,
yeah.
what I did was not that big a deal. Whereas if someone else, if I'm saying, oh, Kassy, you did this really cool thing, you're like, oh, it's just kind of a cool way, I think, of doing that. We also have a public apology that started because of me, so I don't want to talk about that one.
Oh,
But
you're out to tell me more about that
yeah,
offline.
yeah, that's anyway. Okay, that's great stuff here. So why is this focus on culture so important in this discussion of working through this confluence
Yes.
of tech and labor shortages?
Well, I'm just going to keep the river analogy going. So I think that, culture is part of what makes you want to be in the boat with a team.
Yeah.
And I think it's also one of the most important things to have right when you're headed downriver, especially if you're going to hit some rapids. And in
Yeah.
construction, we always do. We go through big economic cycles. We go through huge growth. We see net new sectors come into the space, like our companies change, the industry changes, codes change. And if we're not working together and like quite literally sort of rowing or paddling together,
Yeah.
that's going to be problematic. You're going to flip the boat. Somebody's going to fall out.
Your boat.
Yeah, and you're in a raft. You're in some kind of boat together. Like you want to be rowing in the same direction, and you
Yeah.
want to have that common language, which is also a safety thing in a
Right.
boat, right?
Yeah.
But you want to like have a common good attitude. Like if somebody is like kind of being a bummer or kind of being a jerk, like it's not going to be a great time. And so
Yeah.
I think it's really important as we're like headed down this river, especially as we're hitting these big rapids with the workforce shortage, with technology changing. There's so much happening. So if we're able to communicate well and act in unison, it's going to behoove us, and culture helps us do those things.
Yeah. I mean, that boat analogy has certainly been used in lots of business talks and stuff. It seems, because it's just such an obvious,
Yeah.
like even skull racing or something, where you're all working together. But yeah, man, just having that shared language of like the commands you're giving, like if I
Yes.
don't understand it, or if I don't want to do it because I don't like you today, it's like,
Yeah.
that's really going to hurt you. That's
100%. And,
a great analogy.
I'm not everybody's going to be watching this. I'm sure they'll be listening. But if you knock yourself on the head when you fall out of the boat in the river, it like is kind of a safety command, like, are you okay?
Oh, okay.
And so, those engagement surveys are kind of that. It's like, you okay?
Yeah.
Or like, what can we do different? So,
Well, and that's a big thing. I probably talk to someone every 5, 7, 6 episodes or something about mental health.
yes.
And I think that whole checking in with people is a huge thing. So just kind of a reminder, everybody, ask people what's going on, really care about the answer. And if someone asks you, give an answer if you really need
Yeah.
something. So
Well, and it brings up a great point about, this era where we have so many open positions and so much of a need for workers. We need to attract them, not just with like, hey, this is a good paying job, but like they need to know that there's a culture of caring, and there probably needs to be some benefits around that. Investing in mental health benefits for your employees. You should, it's a recruitment strategy, it's a retention strategy, but it's like kind of a people first strategy. Not
Yeah.
kind of, it is a people first strategy.
for sure, yeah.
So you bring up a great point about that too, and I think that culturally construction does have a bad rap for that over the years. I think it's getting better, but it's kind of a tough guy industry.
Yep.
I'm not afraid to say that. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years, and I was a tough guy for a long time, but there's a reason that suicide rates are so high in construction, and there's a lot that we can be doing to avoid that, and part of that is the culture of caring and
Yeah.
investing in employee mental health. So,
Yeah, being willing to say I need help.
yes.
All right, so as we discussed, the proliferation of new tech. So let's help them maybe narrow down some things
Yes.
they can look at. So what tech do you believe is best to focus on? And I understand every business is different, but
Yep.
let me start that question over again. So we've talked about the proliferation of new tech. This question is maybe a little too broad because you don't know who you're talking to specifically, but what tech do you believe is best to focus on to help truly move construction forward?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it would be silly to like not say AI,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the expected answer, but I think it's a true answer, because if we don't keep up with that, we're all going to be left behind. We don't want to fall behind our competitors. But what's under the hood of AI is our data. And so I think focusing on good data practices, which also link back to the good digital literacy of your workforce, is really important. And you need to have standardized data practices that feed that AI so that you're getting great recommendations, that you're surfacing those insights, and that you're helping people do their jobs better and make better decisions. And so it comes down to the idea that we also need to sort of digitize our wisdom. Right?
Yeah.
So we're like digitizing what's happening on our projects, which is really important from like an analytical decision-making perspective, especially as new generations coming in. But I think that there's a softer side of that where we could use AI to sit down and have a conversation like we are, say with a career electrician, a master electrician, and talk to him about a lot of things, or talk to her about a lot of things. Why'd you join? Why'd you stay? How would you handle this problem on site? What was the biggest safety issue you ever experienced? How did you handle it? How do you handle the team dynamics on a site? And use AI to help extrapolate insights or training content or storytell. Like there are low barrier things like Notebook LM that can generate like a podcast from an MP4 file.
I don't want to talk about that
I'm
competitor
sorry, I'm not trying. Oh
Kassy.
no, I said the wrong thing.
No.
I'm gonna get kicked out of the booth right now.
It is a pretty impressive tool, though. I mean, yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
But those are like low cost ways where people can start to kind of dip their toe into the pond of AI, and also again capturing all of this wisdom that's leaving us. And even if you don't know what to do with all that information, like initially, like we'll figure it out. But like capture like the information there in the minds of these brilliant people leaving our industry, and then get your data house in order so that you can use this stuff in meaningful ways.
Yeah, so I interviewed here at the show. I interviewed Heath Blackburn. He's talking about moving. Training foremen because they're losing them and all the things. It's all the same topics we've been talking about. And he was excited to learn about AI at this the Innovation Institute he attended, and he figured out how to use it to do what you just said. He interviewed the foreman, so basically talking about how to train.
Yep.
So he asked, like, Kassy, talk to me about how you would want to train, and just went through a whole bunch of questions.
Yep.
Recorded it on, I don't know what platform, we'll say Copilot or something like that, and then transcribed it, and then had it create a PowerPoint so that Kassy now had the way you want to train and talk in your way. And then when I did my interview, it's going to be slightly different because I think about things differently. I was like, it was so cool, and how excited he was to talk about, like, I discovered this thing, and I could, he could use it and do it and all that. So it was pretty cool catching that. So that's great.
I love that story, and it reminds me of a story. Excuse me.
Yeah, you can just start over if you want. Just reminds me of it.
Yeah, it reminds me of another story. So my husband and I, we do some construction and real estate development up in the Upper Peninsula, and we walked into one of the houses that we thought was ready to turn over to a painter. Now I know this is not an electrical story, but bear with me. And we thought that our internal crews had cleaned up all the drywall and everything was ready, and it just wasn't there yet. There was more sanding, there were mud in places that there shouldn't have been. Toe kicks weren't on something. There were some things that needed to be done, and it was a little daunting. We're like, okay, how do we do this? Like, what do we do? Okay, we need to do like a quality control inspection list. And then it felt daunting to have to sit down and think about that. So I said, turn on your Chat GPT and talk to it. And my husband walked around and in 5 minutes was like, I need you to help me create a checklist for quality control for my guys to turn over this project. And he just orated all the things that he had caught. And then it spit out a checklist that we now have as a standard operating procedure so that there is a clear expectation and a clear helping guide for our guys on the next job.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, there you go, another.
yeah. I mean, that's pretty low. That is completely free. It took 10 minutes, and it can be very helpful on both the leadership side as well as the worker side, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Anyways, I digress.
Yeah. No, that's well, I mean, because that's a construction site.
Yeah.
They can do the same thing. So, it's kind of deep. There's a lot of things we've talked about here, but what are just a couple things that contractors can start doing to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think building recruitment pipelines that include women. We're 50% of the population, yet 10-11% of the industry, and even fewer in the trades. I think overall it's 4. I think electrical, maybe 5% representation in the field.
Okay.
I think offering, competitive and creative compensation packages is really key. I think that we're in a sort of a buyer's market where employers are having to compete for talent, so we need to get creative. And then prioritizing culture. Prioritize the programs that help with those generational divides, prioritize programs that help with digital literacy, that make people feel like they're ready for this next, industrial revolution that we're in. And like, if you go do nothing else, like go out and do that engagement survey.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy. It's just going to give you a really great sense of what's going on in your organization, and maybe allow you to reflect honestly on where you're really nailing it, hitting it out of the park, and you can amplify that out to more prospective employees. But it's also going to make you take stock of maybe where you need to invest some more time and energy into your culture, your workplace experience to help make it a better thing for folks. And then, of course, technology. Invest in tech, get on board. It's going to help extend careers. It's going to get people into our industry, and we got to do it. So let's get to work.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, Kassy, last question. I always like to close out the conversation by refocusing on the why of what you do.
Yes.
So what motivates you to do this day in and day out? What keeps you excited and passionate about what you do?
Yeah, I think what does it for me, and I alluded to this earlier, is that there's really no industry, community, business, or person or family that doesn't rely on construction every day.
Yeah.
But we oftentimes just don't talk about that a lot. And I get really excited to talk to people about it, to tell them, one, make folks realize how important this industry is to all of us all the time. And to get people fired up for a possible career here, because it's been a wonderful home for me. It's been such a rewarding career. And honestly, the future of our built environment rests on the shoulders of construction. And we need to be talking, yes, within our industry, but we actually need to go out and talk to people outside of our industry about that. Not to be alarmist, but to sound the alarm just a little bit. There's a lot at stake here, and we all need to be looking at this.
Yeah.
So
for sure,
those are the things that fire me up every day to talk about this stuff.
Well, awesome. So I know the NICA convention is a very busy time.
Yes.
I know you've been doing a lot of things here, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to spend some time with me and with the audience to share some of your insight and knowledge and some really cool, very applicable steps that people can do tomorrow to improve their business. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Todd. This has been so much fun. I hope you come up and hit Lake Superior with me.
I'm bringing, well, I don't have a kayak anymore.
We got a kayak for you.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Todd.
That was my conversation with Kassy Slaughter, formerly Senior Manager, Industry Transformation at Procore. You can connect with Kassy and see what she's working on, as well as Procore, by heading to the links in the show notes. I would love to hear what steps you're taking to improve your culture and improve tech adoption. So leave a comment in the comment section of Spotify or YouTube, or more importantly, this year, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm building up a newsletter community and would love to chat with you via that medium. So please click subscribe in the notes section or at graybar.com/podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode of Keeping the Lights On. We'll see you next time.
So what advice would you give to 18-year-old Kassy?
I think I would tell 18-year-old Kassy to research what the Kubler-Ross change curve is. Because for so many years, I was afraid and resistant to change. And I think I would tell her, read up on it, understand you'll always get to the other side of it, and be less afraid of change.
Okay, Kassy, this is unfair, because this is not what I was looking for in this answer, but now I need to ask you. No, it is what I was looking for. That sounded bad. Gosh, what a great start. What a great rapport I'm building up here. What is that? What is the Kubler-Ross?
Yes. So have you heard of the 5 stages of grief?
Yes, I have heard that. Yep.
Most people have. Well, that was developed by a woman named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Okay.
She was a Swiss-American psychiatrist, and she came out with that in the late 60s. And it got pretty quickly picked up as a model for organizational change management.
Oh, okay.
Because of how related grief and loss are, or grief and change.
Yeah.
And so
similar type of thing.
Yeah. So it may not say the same exact 5 words as you see in the grief curve, but essentially you go through that frustration, denial, acceptance, experimentation, and eventually that integration.
Okay. And so let's step back to the question now that I understand what that is. And so you would tell your 18-year-old self
to read up on it, understand what it is, so that although change seems scary in the beginning, we kind of always ride this wave to integration or acceptance, and we're in this new reality that is oftentimes better than the old reality, because I spent so much time trying to resist.
Yeah.
change in those younger years?
Tahira is out there, and she and I talk about meditation all the time, and so that sounds like there's some meditative things there. I've never really thought about that with the stages of grief, but speaking of it and change, there's some meditation things there about acceptance, equanimity.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
and it applies at different levels, right? Like you as an individual, but also like, I mean, we can apply it to the industry, which is what we're here to talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the industry needs to embrace change in that same way.
Wow, that's great. Okay, that great start here. I love it.